Imagine supernatural horrors lurking, waiting to enter our world from other dimensions. Every shadow holds a secret, every dark corner a threat, but a team stands ready. Project Threshold. Their mission: protect us from darkness. Join us. ProjectThreshold.com.
With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
On this episode of Into the Fray, I welcome back Mark Muncy and Erika Lance. They're, of course, the hosts of the podcast Eerie Travels, and you guys know Mark very well. He's been on many a times. I think he is still the most oft-visited guest for Into the Fray. That is my Eerie, Florida friend, and your Eerie, Florida friend, Mark Muncy. And, of course, this is part 2 of 3 episodes that we will be doing about the book that Mark Muncy and Erika Lance have co-written and co-traveled, might I say, together. It is The Dark Side of the Smoky Mountains, a travel guide for your next spooky journey, with illustrations by the very talented Carrie Schultz. Eerie Muncy. That's her full name. I can't not say her full name. So there we go. Welcome back, you guys.
Thank you. I love being here.
I love having you guys. The first round, we covered a lot of stuff, and we're going to cover a lot of good stuff on this one as well. Part 1 was episode 500, of course, and we talked about things like Old Green Eyes, Crystal Caverns, and its freaky spiders and things, which means spiders, Spearfinger, and then what's his name, Dark Aggie. So that was all on part 1, and part 2's got just the same amount of paranormal and creepy creature goodness as part 1.
Yeah, and thanks everybody. When I listened to 500, and you were giving out all the shout out, everybody who called in to give out all the shout outs, I did not pay those people to shout me out the few times that they did. So
yeah, you got called out on that. You did. People love you.
So
that's
for those
just how
that
it
did
is.
that, if I do bump into you, I do you $1. Okay.
$1 and a high five.
Exactly.
Yep. So
Well,
I'll take that any day.
$1 soon then.
Yeah, and maybe you get one of his books. Maybe he'll sign it for you. Just maybe.
Yeah.
Then you can make a lot more one day when, these guys get super duper uber famous.
Gladly.
And then that signature is going to be like a Stephen King first edition type of a deal.
Don't say stuff like that, Shannon. It'll go straight to his head.
I know. It already
Straight.
has. It's already too late. I can't take it back, Eric. It's in the ether. All right, guys. Let's dive in.
I have signed a few books.
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
I said I have signed a few books to eBay, just so they know. So.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find on eBay anymore. I haven't bought anything from eBay in a while. Is that still a hot thing to do, is to buy? Like, I know a long time ago, I looked up haunted dolls on eBay, and quite a few popped up.
And they're still there. They're still there, which is interesting to me. I love that that's a thing.
See, here's my thinking on that.
Fun.
Do you think that if a doll is priced quite cheaply, then that means it's actually haunted because that means the person really truly wants to just pass that on to someone else? Or does that mean it's BS and you need to search for the more expensive one, and that then verifies it a little bit more for it being real? Thoughts, please.
Yeah, therein lies the rub. I did notice that New Orleans, they now have some of the realtors put up signs that say haunted to increase the value, which, imagine that 20 years ago was the other way around. You had to put up signs that not haunted.
Yeah, they try to keep that ish quiet. And you're like, no, this place isn't haunted. That door shuts all the time. You feel the breeze. You're like, no. Oh, it was there.
And now they're like, oh no, there's ghosts here all over the place. They're just in this closet. Come on out and make some money selling your house for a haunted tour.
Oh, you don't like the voodoo witch queen, the animal blood on the floor? I'm sorry. Go next door. That'll be the place for you.
Wow. Wow. That took on a whole new level, guys. Are you going to be realtors now? Because I think that would be really cool.
Or the dark side of realty.
LeGros and Muncy, realtors extraordinaire of the paranormal.
Yeah. Don't go in the attic. Don't go in the basement. And for the love of God, lock the closet doors. All right, guys, let's jump in, shall we?
Yeah.
First on the list that I have chosen for this little trip we shall take is the Wheatland Plantation.
Oh,
All right.
one of my favorites. One of my favorites, because it has one of the things that I love the most. Vengeance Ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Wheatlands Plantation. Mark, do you want to kick us off here?
Yeah. All right. So as we say on the show, we got to go in the Waybacks with the Wayback Machine back to the 1820s. In fact, 1820. And that was when the Wheatland Plantation was built, also known as the Wheatlands. And it was built by a guy named Timothy Chandler. And it was his family farm. He was a Revolutionary War veteran, and he had fought hard and long. So they granted him this land. Of course, previous land, we'll get into that. The land is a little bit older than that, of course. And when he died, he gave his land to his son John. And so John's the one who built the main house and built the plantation house. And it covered around over 4,000 acres. And when the Civil War, not the house. The house isn't that big. Sorry. Thanks, Erika.
That's okay. No worries.
And,
I was like, that is the biggest house ever built in the entire universe.
Yes, it'd be bigger and built more then. But the Chandler Gap community is famous there. It was built basically when John Chandler, after the Civil War, he gave a large portion of his lands to the slaves, and they founded that community, and it's still there. So very cool.
Yes, that's the somewhat good part, if you can say that, of this particular area.
Yeah, it's a little dark. There wasn't, at least during the Civil War, there wasn't any major things. There was some raids in the area, raiding some of the farms, both sides. That area was we don't want to be part of the Civil War, so everybody was just kind of not really into it. This whole area of the Smoky Mountains it was both sides were involved, so not everybody dealt with it. But what happened was, basically, we didn't really discover much about the house until about around 2010-ish, when a new couple, John Burns, they basically got the house, were trying to restore it, and they discovered, so many things. And that was when the paranormal activity began. They found out the house was built on
paranormal activity started being reported. It probably was happening based on what happened at this house way before then. Hence the reason Erika stayed by the sign.
Really?
Yeah, the picture in the book is about as close as Erika would get to the house.
Erika, are you sensitive at all? Could you feel what was going on and you just didn't want to take a step any closer for fear of dragging things home with you?
Yes, I do carry protections not to drag things home, but it was a really heavy environment. So yes, I am very sensitive to it. It is a very heavy environment. And unfortunately, when I go around ones that are more powerful, I see images like going, and usually it's not pleasant. So Mark tricked me, and I'm going to use the word tricked me into going to Trans-Allegheny on our last travel, and I could taste it in my mouth. Yeah. So
what was great
is heavy.
What was great is we did Philippi, and we saw the Philippi mummies, and then I got her to go to Trans-Allegheny because it's just a little about half hour away, and we needed some pictures for the next book, the one we're working on now. And I got her into the parking lot at the very edge of the parking lot, and I'm like, let's get a little closer so we can get a picture in front of it, so we can have a nice author picture. And then as we got to the footsteps, I'm like, oh look, there's the gift shop. Let's just run in and get a T-shirt. And once I got her in, oh yeah, that's about as far as I could get her. She was ready for the door right then.
Oh, and the best part, Shannon, is he didn't stop there. He was like, yeah, we don't need to pay for a tour. And then he goes up to the booth and goes, wait, how much is it for just right inside the house, the building here? And I'm like, no, put that wallet away. I'm leaving right now. Yeah, so the Wheatlands is similar. Not as bad, of course, but very similar.
Yeah, I would imagine for anyone that is
so-
sensitive, Trans-Allegheny is about the last place that you would want to be stepping into any way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah, no, nope. Yep,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah, so the Wheatlands, back to that, the guy who built the place, John Chandler, he was a Freemason. And when he started building the house, he realized it's on a geode, like a giant geode, the land there. So he incorporated that into the foundation of the house. So for those of us who know that geodes and crystals channel energies type thing, of course, this is perfect. And we're in Sevierville, which is where the Battle of Boyd's Creek was in the 1790s. And that's where John Sevier fought a bunch of Cherokee, and he dumped a bunch of the casualties in a mass grave right here at the Wheatlands. At least 20 some odd bodies. And then they cleared out, it's just crazy. And then they cleared out more overgrowth, and they discovered this wonderful pond and a little spring and a abandoned slave cemetery. Wow.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of death.
And that's 70 recorded deaths in the house from the Chandler family. And I loved his quote when we talked to Richard. He said, of course there's ghosts here. There's ghosts everywhere here.
70 deaths within the house are documented?
Yes.
Good
15
God.
died in the master bedroom alone. And one lady died on the main staircase of a heart attack. And then another one fell and broke her neck in the 1930s. Yeah. And Tim Chandler, 1942, he was one of the last direct family members, got drunk and began shooting randomly throughout the house. And so to stop him, his son wound up bludgeoning him to death to stop him. And I just, wow, how drunk do you have to be? And that now people hear the yelling, the thuds, and then some strange gurgling sound. Oh God, I can't imagine that. And then there's a little girl in a blue dress ghost. Yeah, not a little lady in white, just a little girl in blue. And of course, shadow figures everywhere. And that's just, it's a crazy house. Open for tours. So
it's a beautiful place.
You can go and get a tour. Yep. Thursday through Sunday, you can get a tour. And if you reach out to them at the Wheatlands, you can schedule a private night for ghost hunting.
Disembodied gurgling. Yeah,
So-
that's a lot there. 70 deaths just within the house alone. And then phantom gurgling. You don't hear that often.
No.
Lovely.
No.
So you got a mass grave, you got murders, you got all kinds of deaths, and that geode underneath just soaking up all the energy. So
Yeah. 2 mass graves, Mark, not one. We got one
Oh,
mass
yeah.
grave
Yeah,
and
technically
one
2.
cemetery. And I'm quite sure the family cemetery is somewhere there as well. So
Now, one of the features throughout the book is Erika's Eats and Erika's Sleeps, where she's choosing cool restaurants with either some kind of a cool name or history attached to it. Of course, maybe it's haunted, a creature, whatever it is. And these are restaurants or places at B&Bs. You can sleep, you can stay, whatever, a motel. And then our MO, Mark and I, before we do any of these interviews, he sends me the book ahead of time and we do our 3-parters, whatever it is, and I send him a list of my choices, essentially. And when I just found this out before we hit the record button, but I'll let Mark tell it, but there's a cool story, synchronicity that has gone on with this list this time, and I'm enjoying it. And it has to do with my choice for this episode, because I figured each episode I would feature one of Erika's Eats or Erika's Sleeps, maybe a little of both. Maybe next time I need to do that, do a twofer. But I chose for Erika's Eats this time the Abbey in Townsend, and that's in Tennessee. So, Mark, would you mind sharing with me, or rather sharing with the audience, what you shared with me before we hit the record button about this particular location?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was taking 2 of my YouTuber friends. They're known as Tampa J and Chris the Girl. If anybody follows them, they've both got quite big followings. They're daily vloggers. They go to theme park attractions and festivals and stuff like that. And they just moved up to the Knoxville area, and I wanted to show them some of the spooky places from the new book. And so we agreed to meet in Cades Cove, and we did a little breakfast there. And then we went through the cove, it's so funny because that's one of the places we're going to be talking about. But we stopped for lunch at a restaurant, and it's called the Abbey in Townsend, Tennessee. And that's while I'm sitting there eating with them at this amazing place, I get the message from Shannon, hey, here's the list of places I want to talk about this weekend. And it includes Cades Cove, it includes the Wheatlands, and it includes the Abbey that I was sitting in at that moment.
I love that. That doesn't happen very often to me. So when I heard that before we hit record, I'm going, okay, that's pretty freaking amazing. Because I have to say, this book is so... That's why we're able to do 3 episodes. Anytime Mark writes something, and now that Mark and Erika have this book, it is so chock full of locations and information. There was plenty to choose from. So I just think that's very cool that happened. It's a very interesting coincidence, synchronicity, whatever. Made my day today.
Yes.
So Erika, you want to tell them about this place?
I will. So the Abbey is really neat because the Abbey used to be a former chapel, and it's right on the river. And so you river tubers can actually just float up to the outdoor patio. So if you're out tubing, which I recommend heavily, that's super fun and not haunted at all. So it's good. I love tubing. But one of the things about this, so it's former chapel, really neat inside, but there is apparently a spirit with an unknown background that will just come through the dining room and in broad daylight. This isn't a nighttime ghost. You don't have to schedule a special time. Yeah, they might walk right up to you in the middle of eating your lunch or dinner. It's awesome. There's amazing beer cheese, and I might have needed a few shots to sit there. It's fine. It's fine. Don't need a ghost friend coming up while I'm eating. But they have incredibly yummy food. They have a rib special, which I love every Friday night. And it's super fun. So the other cool thing is in Townsend, where the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival is.
Yeah, which is a huge event.
Yeah.
Like on par with Hocking Hills and West Virginia Bigfoot. Thousands of people show up for that. Very cool. But the Abbey, it's very neat. You walk in, there's the bar right there, and you order at the bar your food, your drinks, whatever. They've got a distillery. They carry some of our favorite drinks from all over the Smoky Mountains. They've got Boojum Brewery stuff there as well, which is one of our favorite places. And they've got
Mark, I gotta say that one
specialties.
of my favorite features is the fact that the booths, they use the pews from the booths to make the booth. So you're sitting in the old pews.
Yep. and it's right in front of the altar and right next to the organ. So you're actually in that main area. There's also a vestibule area that's really nice. A great place for events too. So they'll do like your weddings, receptions, and stuff like that. So very cool. Cannot recommend it enough. And good food. I like their flank steak special. That's one of my favorites. They have daily specials, so check them out.
Is there any thought as to who the apparition is?
As I've done some deep diving, I think I may have found it because there was one of the pastors died there during a sermon,
Oh,
and they did not know that. And I only found it because I found the original name of the church. And that was where we were able to go, okay, that might be the guy. Who knows? They, of course, don't want to say the pastor is haunting the place, but could be anybody. That's the problem with these things. If it's not really documented, we don't know. It is funny when you go there. I asked the lady at the bar if she had heard the stories, because I always ask every time you go, right? You go anywhere, you ask, even if you do know it's haunted. And of course, Lady Bart, nope, don't know what you're talking about. But then the little waitress right next to her is like, are you kidding? What about the thing the other night? What about the thing the other day? And she's like, oh, no, we don't talk about that. And she's like, the owner knows about it. Yeah, talk to him. So it's very cool.
yeah, huge high five. Whether that's him or not, it's still cool that you found that. So very well done.
Yes. Yes.
And we do what we can. Do what we can.
Yeah.
All right, so staying within the Great Smoky Mountains. This is a place that I have been myself when I was still living in Ohio, drove down and went to Cades Cove. And if that's ringing a bell with anyone that is at all into strange disappearances, it was also heavily featured in all the missing 411 stuff, is the haunting disappearance of little Dennis Martin. And you know, that is not the only strange thing that goes on in Cades Cove. And something you guys mention in the book is something you call bear jams, which we did get stuck in a bear jam there, and people were getting out to take pictures and they're getting yelled at. What are you doing? You dummy, get back in the car. It is freaking bears. Okay. So I actually do have pictures taken from the car, not outside the car, taken from the car of a mama and her cub, which I had really never seen anything like that unless it was at a zoo. So that was really cool from my perspective. But to be in Cades Cove, in the Smokies in general, really, it sets itself up, this beautiful, creepy, haunting, and very unique location, because the Smokies is Smoky. That's how it got its name. But anyhow, let's talk about the area Cades Cove in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's what's fun. You talk about the bears. We took the YouTubers there and we didn't see any bears, no log jam, no bear jam. No, there was a deer jam because there were a few deer. But what was funny is as soon as we left and we left them, Carrie and I stopped at another little gift shop that had just opened, in a little oddities market, and shout out to them. They were great. Right next to Bigfoot Philly cheesesteaks, which highly recommend. And again, it just opened, so we couldn't put it in the book. But when we stopped there, there were 4 bears just in the dumpster behind the restaurant. So they're all over the place. Black bears all over the Smoky Mountains. And remember, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. Just remember
My recommendation is to not pet the fuzzy dogs, as I like to call them. Do not pet the fuzzy dog, because what doesn't kill you will make you stronger, except bears. Bears will kill you.
Yes. So anyway, the Cades Cove is one of just, people come from all over the world to go to the Smoky Mountains. And this is, everybody goes to Gatlinburg, everybody goes to Pigeon Forge and goes down the main strips, like what we like to call Baptist Vegas. But when you go to Cades Cove, you are getting the Smoky Mountains and this huge valley. Now the natives cleared it by burning big sections of it, this flat land, and it stayed that way. And then the settlers came, they chased the Cherokee out. And then while they were there, they grew to about 700 people. and there were lots of kids per household because this is the early 1800s. You need 10 to 12 kids to keep the farm running. And then it had several churches built up because you have to have the Baptist area, the Methodist area, and they did build a school. It's long gone. And it was a community. They did marriages. They did all the things. My favorite thing is wiener cabins. And that was where you would have this special cabin that was just for couples in their early days of marriage. So they could have the quiet time, the honeymoon time, but then they were still close enough to go and help with the farms and stuff. And it's an amazing place. And then the families got kicked out when they built it into the national park. So we just keep kicking people out of there.
Us. So, Mark.
Yeah. So we've got
one of my favorite stories, though, in Cades Cove involves one of the first X-Men.
Yeah, pretty much. We've got an equivalent to Storm there. Buckle up. This is a fun one. So there was a young couple, and their names were Mavis and Basil Estep. And they lived in a little 2-room cabin right along one of the streams there. And they had a great life there. But Mavis had this fear, this phobia that she could not stand, and that was thunderstorms. And she had heard this legend of a ghostly bride that had been born during a thunderstorm, had been surrounded by thunderstorms. And when she went and finally got married, right at the steps of what's called the Primitive Baptist Church now, she was struck by a freak bolt of lightning in her wedding dress, dead right at the base of the church. And so she supposedly haunts the church and the graveyard, and she's seen as a lady in white, but also with blue sparks coming off of her. Her face is a dark blue, surrounded with energy. And some people say that they see her walking through walls there. It's interesting.
One of the things too is, like, in their house she wouldn't allow any metal, including she made quilts but without metal needles. She used like stone and stuff because she didn't want to, and wood needles. She didn't want to have any metal in the house where she could get struck.
Yeah, that's how severe her fear was. And she famously built one. It's a legendary blanket, a legendary quilt. And she made it out of her husband Basil's shirts, his old flannels. And she called it the cussing cover because he had been wearing one shirt during their first big fight. And she learned that Basil could swear a storm. So that's the shirt she remembered. And so that became the cussing cover. And I love that. And apparently it's still in the hands of a local collector. So I'd love to see it if you're out there listening. And we heard the story that it's still out there. But it's she didn't die from lightning. Mavis had some sort of severe illness. We assume tuberculosis because it would have been around that time period. And she was very bedridden, dying. And she went to Basil and said, all right, I'm going to be gone soon. The farm's going to need a partner. I give you permission to remarry. But there are 2 rules you must never break. And one is never sell any of my quilts and never use them on any metal bed. So there you go. As long as you don't break those 2 rules, you're fine. So she died, and Basil agreed to those terms. And ever the dutiful husband, about 2 weeks later, he remarried a woman about 20 years younger. And her name's Truly. And of course, Truly was not happy with old wooden beds. So get me a new metal bed. And then winter came and it got really cold. And she's, can I use one of the quilts to keep me warm? So he's, of course. So what does she use? The cussin cover.
Yeah.
And
This
Erika,
is the part where we all sense it's not going to end well.
what is it, your favorite thing, Erika?
Nope.
A vengeance ghost?
Oh, I love vengeance ghosts. Vengeance ghosts are my favorite.
Yeah. Truly wakes up and sees some woman standing at the foot of her bed and pointing at her and screaming at her. So she screams awake and tries to get Basil awake, but yeah, he's gone. She's gone. Basil, what? What are you talking about? Just go back to bed. Don't know what you're talking about. And then a few hours later, Truly finds herself like flying out of bed, waking up. And then there is this bright flash of light and she can't see anything. When she wakes up, the eyes come back and Basil is struck dead by lightning and no other damage anywhere in the house and no reported storms, no nothing, just poor Basil struck by lightning. So there you go.
I think for anyone that doesn't like thunderstorms, the last place that you should be is Tennessee. I'm pretty sure they have pretty amazing storms there.
Yeah, especially this area because there are tons of freak lightning strikes in bright sunny days all around Cades Cove. And everybody says, oh, it's the lightning lady. And no one really knows who that first lightning lady is. That's my problem. I keep trying to dig into her. You can find everything on Mavis and the cussin cover, but trying to find stuff about the bride is super hard to do. There are so many graveyards in Cades Cove. There's supposed to be 14 according to the census. And so far, we've only found 11 of them. So there are 3 missing ones, including the one where Mavis is supposed to be buried. We don't know where that one is. And the one interesting thing about this is we talked to one of the rangers there and he said, oh yeah, let me show you something. And he showed us off of one of the main roads, there was this giant rock and it is covered. It just looks giant black rock. And he walks over to it and he's, no, it's not a black rock. It's not shale. And he rubs it and it's all soot. And it's been struck by lightning numerous times, like a natural lightning rod, because it's the tip of a copper vein that runs under Cades Cove. And there's supposedly another little one not too far from the church, the old Primitive Baptist church. So maybe that's where these stories of lightning strikes and the freak lightning that hits around there, it's because of the copper veins that run under there.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange area. And you can talk about all the what's under the ground to help exacerbate such certain situations of high strangeness. That's something that's been speculated in other areas of the country too. So very interesting area. One of the few of the many locations you guys cover in the book that I've been to, and it is gorgeous. Okay, so next up, we are going to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and the Old Mill Restaurant. And this, even before I began reading it, I'm like, Old Mill, where have I heard that? And then it dawned on me that I have watched the episode of Restaurant Impossible with Robert Irvine, where they went in and it's a restaurant in trouble. They go in, they help the management, and if there's fighting, but they also do renovations within the restaurant. And I would love to know if after they did any reservations, if that changed or ramped up the activity for the folks that live there, patrons that go there to eat. So yeah, let's talk about the Old Mill Restaurant.
All right. It is one of the most photographed mills in America because it's right off the main road in Little Pigeon River in Pigeon Forge. And it's currently really hard to get to because the bridge to it got hammered in the storms last year and they're having to restore it. Actually, where we took our picture for the book, you can't get to right now. But it was, again, back in the Wayback Machines. It was settled in the 1700s, that area. And a guy named Mordecai Lewis and his grandson built the big mill right there on the river. And it's just iconic. It's one of those just great old mills. And then they built the forge right there. It was actually one of the family members there. They built the forge, and that's where the town Pigeon Forge gets its name. And these two families that built the mill and built the forge, they founded the town. And the old mill basically wound up in the Trotter family years later, pretty much during the Civil War. And famously up in the attic area, second floor area, that's where he treated the Union people who were hurt in the Civil War. And this was a Confederate state, even though, like I said, both sides really didn't want anything to do with it. That was his way of helping. He was a Union sympathizer. And the mill got damaged over and over again by storms. So it's not the old original 1700s mill. It's been rebuilt several times. Right now was rebuilt in the 1930s. So it's still close to 100 years old. And it's the grinding stone there is the last remaining piece of the original building. So very cool. It was, the restaurant there is wonderful. They've got a lot of great food. Erika, it was kind of like fancy Cracker Barrel, right?
It's like a fancy Cracker Barrel, but they give you free banana nut muffins with breakfast and corn fritters with lunch or dinner. So you never pass up free corn fritters. Seriously.
No, that's like passing up free boiled peanuts. It just doesn't happen. Now, we have been seeing a couple figures there. One of my favorites that we pretty much identified him because he wears an apron and walks through the guest area, and he is almost solid. People sometimes think he is some guy just working there, but he looks a little disheveled. And pretty much we've got pictures of this guy, and people say, oh yeah, that's him. And it was a guy named Douglas Ferguson, who was a potter and built clay pots and stuff. And he had a shop just across the way. It was his studio, and he would come to the mill to grab clay. So that's who we think keeps coming back and forth to the place. And then there's the scary one. And that we think that one's more of a stone tape. Douglas Ferguson, he's just a repeater ghost, just doing what he used to do. He doesn't seem to interact with anybody or anything like that. But this one became famous because in the middle of a wedding reception, this guy just shows up, walks up the stairs and right through the tables. The tables weren't even there because they'd been adjusted for the wedding. And it's just this black figure, and again, shadow person type thing, but everybody smelled like sulfur and gunpowder. And then when he came up, he just kind of poofed in red smoke. And this was right around the year 2000. Crazy story. He's been seen a few times since, not as impressive as that one with dozens of witnesses, but people still see him there. And the waitresses do not like working that top floor at all.
Which is where Mark insisted that we sit, but I insisted that we go during daytime.
Yes. I didn't tell her that the wedding was in the middle of the day. So
Whoopsie.
Yeah, no, Mark really does enjoy tricking me into places.
Yeah. The guy who runs the tours there, his name is Emmett, and he's been there for over half a century, and he still runs the tours. So if you go there, tell him hi.
It's unique for a shadow figure or shadow being to poof out and produce or be seen. I don't know if they produce it. That was the wrong word. But to poof out and there's red smoke or red whatever the hell it is before they go. That's interesting.
Yeah, they usually just melt into the shadows or just disappear. This one, I like to think he's like Batman. Smoke bomb, poof, and out. So,
Definitely a poltergeist.
Yeah, Eric, it's just Batman. It's okay. He's there to help
yeah,
you.
he's
Uh,
there. He's there
Not
to
going to
save us from the
convince me of
Joker.
that, Shannon. No.
Probably Mark, it's at the point where whatever you say, Erica's just going to do the opposite because she already knows by now. You're like, I want to sit downstairs. So we're going upstairs is what you're saying. So now you just need to start mixing it all up so she doesn't know what's what and do the opposite every time.
I hear you guys, right?
Yeah, I
Part of this.
I already get her occasionally with the reverse psychology, but yeah.
Yes, it's great when your partner does that.
You know what it is, Erica? He just wants to make sure it's like muscle memory, just like working out. If you don't use it, you lose it. So he wants to make sure that your psychic, sensitive abilities stay sharp.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what's occurring. I'm going to get him back. Don't worry. It's coming.
Oh yeah, she's got things in store. We went to just one place right there is Alcatraz East on the island. I have to mention this place because it's amazing because Erika is Miss True Crime.
Yes.
And that's what scares me. I'm fine with ghosts, monsters, vampires, you name it, I'm good. But serial killers, that's a whole nother ballgame. And Alcatraz East, which is right there, people look at it and say, what the heck is this? Some sort of, because it looks like Alcatraz. But when you get inside, it is actually a amazing collection. It's actually the John Walsh collection from the old crime museum in Washington, D.C. Before they closed it, they moved it here. So it's got amazing artifacts like Ted Bundy's car and the floorboards, the bloody floorboards of the cabin where Billy the Kid was gunned down. And just incredible museum and probably one of the most reasonably priced things in Pigeon Forge. I highly recommend it.
Okay, I would actually love that too. Erica, I am right there with you. I love true crime. Yep. Sign me up.
Yeah, no, it is really amazing. I will say you have to prepare for the energy in there, but I think going into that place, I'm prepared for it. I'm just not going. It's very different for me than going into a haunted house and having a bunch of ghosts that got thrown into a pit and
Right.
stuff together.
Yeah, I can see that, and I can understand that. And as much as we joke about, oh, let's trick Erica into going into certain places, there are certain times where it would become too much for somebody like you, and that is a true statement and a serious thing in some occasions because you can be physically affected, become ill, and as mentioned in a funny way, but it's not funny, is actually taking something home with you. So certain people do have to be careful with things like that.
Yeah, no, we honestly joke a lot, but we treat it very seriously.
Yes.
And we have cleansing stuff we do. And then also we have good friends who will help us quite a bit with that too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Guys, what if we discuss a little bit about the moon-eyed people?
Ooh.
Oh, wow. We love the moon-eyed people. It is one of those things that, gosh, it's hard to describe to people without sounding a little weird because it's so spread out over the area. From North Georgia, all over the Smokies, all over Western North Carolina, to Eastern Tennessee. This legend, it's not a legend, according to the Cherokee. It is history. And that's what you have to understand. The Cherokee do have some mythology. They do have some of that. But for them, certain things this is reality. And we talked to Kathy Littlejohn, probably one of the greatest storytellers of the Cherokee. And then we talked to some others who were also just, this is the way it is. And basically the Moon-Eyed people they weren't like supernatural entities. They were real people with very pale skin, sometimes with bearded faces, which the natives didn't have. And they either had gray eyes or blue eyes that were very large. And they were all very short with little round bodies, but their eyes were so sensitive to the sun, they could only come out at night. And that's where they get the name the Moon-Eyed People. Full moons were even too strong for these guys. And they built these low-lying forts because these things were like 2 or 3 feet tall. And there's an amazing place in North Georgia called Fort Mountain that we don't know who built this giant wall of stone up there that's only 3 feet high. And it's on top of a mountain, almost like Stonehenge worthy mystery. It's very wild. And one of the Cherokee chiefs up there talking about it, that when one of the presidents came to see it for the first time, and this chief said, oh yeah, this was built by the Moon-Eyed People. And then we went to war with them and we chased them into the caves. And okay.
You gotta wonder what 2 or 3 foot tall people did that warranted going to war with them.
Yeah. And there's a famous description of them from around the late 1700s, where one of the botanists exploring the area, I guess it was probably Burton or Bartram, one of the two. And he wrote that the Cherokee tell us that these people inhabited the land and the wretches they expelled. I love that quote. So it's wow. And some people said they were albino. Some people thought that they were white men that came from across a great river. And that's when we get the whole tie-in with the Welsh Prince Madoc, which is you want to talk about a crazy legend. It's basically a Welsh guy who got kicked out of Great Britain, and he said fine, and he grabbed his people and sailed westward. And if that's true that he came here and founded people, he would have beat Leif Erikson, because this would have been around the 1100 something. It's wow. But yeah, I don't think that's these guys, because when you talk about the Moon-Eyed People, they were very big-headed, very big eyes, and short and squat. And when you think about that, Shannon, what comes to mind? Big eyes, big heads, little small bodies. What do you think?
Troll dolls.
Yeah,
Shannon?
exactly. Little baby troll. We have our own little people issues, right?
Yeah.
In the forest of the nation that people talk about. We have pale crawlers.
Yep.
I don't know. Where was your mind going with that?
Some people say, hey, that sounds an awful lot like the Greys, because they would have had gray skin, dark eyes, big head.
My mind wasn't even going there. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's very interesting. So if you go to Murphy, North Carolina, there is the Museum of the Cherokee in this town, and it's pretty much very close to the Tennessee border, this museum. But if you go there, they have tons of artifacts, but downstairs in the basement, in a special cabinet, you see what the Cherokee carved, an effigy of the Moon-Eyed People. And if you look at that, I'll tell you, that looks like you're looking at somebody's early carving of the Roswell bodies. It's crazy. Now, the Cherokee do have their own little people, the FRAY. For them, they call them the Cherokee Little People, or the Deer Folk. And they even have basically red caps and that are mischievous. And then they have some that are very happy and help you and play with you. They play with children. Of course, Erika knows the FRAY playing with children, probably not a good thing.
No, that is a terrible idea, but yeah.
Yeah, the Cherokee Little People are they're more supernatural. They connect with the Nineveh, which is the upper beings, the higher beings of the Cherokee, or angels, we would call them. and the little people are their earthly friends and stuff. But yeah, the Moon-eyed people, I'm reminded of those bogeymen up in West Virginia that were found in the mine, supposedly, these wide-eyed golem-looking things. So maybe that's what they've evolved into after being chased into the caves and the underground here. So there are tons of caves in this area.
Yeah, the Hadels, get them.
What's interesting too is, I mean, we can go on a deep dive of this. We're just talking Smoky Mountains, but in Hawaii, they had little people that were basically hunted and killed off there. And then you go to Iceland and they have the little people there and they swear by them. So this could be race of creatures, people that are throughout the world. They've just been hunted to extinction.
And in Knoxville, they have this amazing theater called the Tennessee Caverns. And they have music events there. And it's not open for tours, but it's open for these events. And one of the things they do is they show movies in there. And in July of this year, they're actually showing The Descent in there. And I cannot wait to go. And I'm going to try to get Erika to come, but I don't think she will.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The graveyard again.
Yeah, she's going to feel that one a mile away and definitely will not want to go a mile deep the second that you start looking into caves and things. And if you read The Descent, you watch the movie, of course, those are two different things, even though they're the same creatures. But Hadels and anything subterranean, I find extremely fascinating what might be going on under our feet. But being a spelunker is on the nope list. Hard nope.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Yay,
No, we went and saw.
Yeah, we'll just go look at true crime stuff above ground, and the rest of these kookies can go and explore caves and get stuck in them.
Carrie and I went and saw Weird Al Yankovic there, and it was amazing. So
that is cool. That's great. That's great. No, I love the movie Descent. I don't hate on it. I try to make the distinction that actually the guy claims that he didn't even read Jeff Long's Descent book. No one believes that. It just happens to be the exact same creature. Okay, buddy. But I still love the movie. Okay.
Yeah, the movie is great. And being shown there, I'm all in.
Heck yeah, that's a cool spot to do that. It's just, what is it called? The Red Rocks out in Colorado, that really cool music venue and stage built right into the rock. It's a natural formation that is conducive for such things. Wonderful. Okay, so last but certainly not least, we are going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and hitting up the Whaley Big Greenbrier Cemetery.
It's a little trip from Gatlinburg, but that's where we put it in the book because it's the closest place you can get to it. There's a few fun trails off the main branch of Gatlinburg. Most people go to Gatlinburg, they go see Ripley's, they go see the tourist stuff, they go buy fudge, they get chased by bears that are sneaking into the fudge places. But there's a couple fun trails. There's a Roaring Fork, which has a great ghost story. There's the Ferry House. Erika loves the Ferry House.
I do love the Ferry House. I enjoy the Fae, but yes, they're easier to deal with as far as I'm concerned.
And the Ferry House has nothing to do with fairies, but it's pretty cool. But but it looks like something to do with the fairies. But anyway, if you go to this area it's called Little Greenbrier, which is funny because it's actually, this area is called Greenbrier. The area on Cades Cove side and where the Elkmont land is, that's actually called Little Greenbrier. So it's on the complete other side of the Smokies. So it can be very confusing. But the Whaley family had their land here, and they'd been here a long time. Again, family served in the Revolutionary War, were granted all this land and told, hey, take it from the Cherokee and it's yours. So of course they chased out the Cherokee. They started farming this land. It wasn't as smooth as like the Cades Cove Valley area, and it was a little more tree, but they were working on it. And then, of course, National Park Service comes and says, oh, you got to leave. And so they were forced to leave, and they moved just a little further away. And then the Tennessee Valley Authority comes in and says, nope, you got to leave. We're building a dam. and we needed to power things. And they finally moved to another place called Oak Ridge, a little ways away. And then that land got seized so that they could power more stuff for the Manhattan Project, which everybody associates with White Sands. No, it was all built here in Tennessee and North Carolina. And yeah, so this family got kicked around a lot, but their original cemetery is still there. Now, if you go to that area, it's amazing. The stuff in Cades Cove, there's a few cabins, there's those churches. This area has a lot more. It's mostly foundations and stuff and a lot of old chimneys, and they've been preserved. And then there's a couple long trails. They are not easy trails, people. A lot of stuff in the Smokies are pretty easy trails. These are not. But you will see so many remains of these things and lots of great waterfalls. So many waterfalls along these trails. And you'll see the ruins at Engine Creek, which is a steam engine that crashed here famously, and several ghosts are there. We'll get into them another time. They're in the book, so pick up the book. But when you're walking down this hike, you'll come to a area called Porter's Creek Scenic Loop. And when you go there, you will see the Whaley Big Greenbrier Cemetery. It is impressive for an old cemetery. It's most of these, when you see these little plots and family plots, they're not as extensive as this one. And this one has one of Erika's favorite type of ghosts, right?
Yes, it's a lady in white.
Yep. And she's seen there quite a bit walking around. But like my kid Callie would be so happy, she is not alone. She has a pet there. What
that is a big stretch right there, calling it that a pet.
It's a large black dog that is a ghostly black dog that is supposedly guarding the cemetery. And that we know of from European tradition, they call those Grims. And what they are, not like the old TV show Grimm, which Erika finally got to meet a couple of the cast members.
Captain Renard all the way.
But the Grims were very common over in Europe. And it was basically a custom when most cemeteries are founded when like the patriarch dies or when the young soldier dies in the war and stuff like that. And that comes from an old belief that the first one buried in the cemetery has to protect the cemetery. So the soldier stands on guard. The patriarch watches out for the family for forever. But what they decided was, that's a rough job. We need these guys to go on to heaven. So why don't we just kill a puppy and bury him first? So there'll be a guard.
Not a puppy. Why did you say it like that? That's not how it goes. It's they kill a dog.
Yeah. Poor sweet dog. But that ghost will be there. And that one is supposed to be there with the lady in white. And a lot of people go, oh, it's just a black bear, because there are so many black bears, as we said, in that area. But everybody says that first they think it's a bear, and then they realize it's a dog. Maybe a wolf. There are some wolves out there, not a lot, but there are some. And when it would howl, they said it sounded like a wolf, but it had very deep red eyes and very sharp teeth. And then it would just melt into the stone. So like a shadow person, but a dog. And yeah, it's there's another cemetery nearby that the lady in white visits. And that's, if you just drive along just a short distance, right at Greenbrier Road, there's another trailhead. It's a bit of a steep hike, but there's the Ownby Cemetery. And there you will see Mary Whaley's grave, who was a little baby who died there in 1909. And then that lady in white comes there to visit the baby. That's a long hike for that ghost, but it does it. And people have seen it.
I know that it's limited by the same physical constraints that we are.
Yeah, good point. Good point. There's a lot of great hikes off of that. There's some special areas that you can go to. I It's a beautiful area. It is a lot more forested than Cades Cove area, a lot more hilly. But yeah, again, we got that weird feeling there, Erica, right? You were the
Yeah.
one who got the chills all up and down. You're like, yeah, okay, we should go. We should go.
Yes. No, I agree. And something definitely doesn't want you there.
Yeah.
I actually love stories of phantom black dogs, so it is quite fitting to have one roaming a creepy cemetery. And I didn't know that about killing a dog and burying it, because whatever you bury first will then protect the graveyard. I was not aware of that until I read that in the book.
Yeah, they used to put them in cornerstones of churches as well, just as when they built the church. It's, hey, let's protect the church with a guardian spirit. And you think the church wouldn't want anything to do with spirits and stuff, but that goes way back to medieval times and probably even earlier. Just that's when we have records of it.
That's fascinating. Yeah, there's a lot of good info in the book, I have to say, and it's definitely a fun trip. It's a great read. All right, so talk about Eerie Travels a little bit before you guys go, and let everybody know where to hear you guys chatting and where to get the podcast. And then, of course, the fact that The Dark Side of the Smoky Mountains is available for pre-order, and let everybody know when that comes out as well.
The publication date is going to be August 23rd of this year. But if you go to our website, eerietravels.com, you can see all of the events, and we have advanced copies that we will sign for you. And Mark will dutifully put a wonderful bit of advice on your travels, which is always good. And you can find us basically YouTube, anywhere, Spotify, Apple, anywhere podcasts are, you can find us.
And yeah, eerietravels.com also has links to all our socials and all that. As they update, as social medias come and go, it's just easier. Just go to our website and it'll have all the links. We have a great Discord that people chat in. We've got Appalachian Witch support there. We've got paranormal facts posted all the time. We've got a nice little community there. We've got our Patreon, of course, because we got to keep the show on the road and got to have fun. But you can find our podcast, Spotify, iTunes, all the fun places. And we're on a couple times a week. So we appreciate if you show up.
I thank you guys for coming back on for part 2. And I will have Mark and Erika back once again for the part 3, which will be the final culmination of our chats for this book, and which you already know I'm looking forward to the next book you guys are working on right now. Yay! But thanks again, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having us, Shannon. It's always wonderful.
And always a pleasure. And thank you, Fraysies. We love you all. I'll keep coming as long as you guys keep wanting me.